Former prosecutor, I can tell you, nothing good ever comes out of keeping secrets from parents. The best is to always tell the truth and to have parents be involved in their lives. Nobody loves their children more than their parents. And if children are struggling with their identity, they're struggling with anything at school, they need their parents. To isolate them from their parents is to do harm. And that's why I authored Assembly Bill 1314. But unfortunately, this legislature is so arrogant. They're so pompous, they refuse to even give my bill a hearing. They didn't even want to take a vote. That's how little regard they have for the people of this state. They don't even want to hear from their own representatives. I represent 500,000 people in California. I had several co-authors to the bill who also represent 500,000 people. And they told us to sit down and be quiet. Well, guess what? We're not going to sit down. We're going to stand up. That's right. And if the legislature will not hear from the people, we will make sure that the people will have their voice heard, and we're going to do that through the ballot box. And that is why, yes, we will make them hear us through the ballot initiative process. So I support this effort, this Protect Kids ballot initiative, which will give people the power to voice their opinion on the subject and to write legislation consistent with the majority viewpoint in this state, which again is that kids are special, they're to be protected, and that they need their parents. And the government has no place interfering in that. So with that, I thank you all for being here. I'll be with you, and let's go win this at the ballot box. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So my name is Erin Friday, and I am a lifelong Democrat, as are many in this crowd today. Please listen, Sacramento Bee and Politico. This is not a partisan issue, but a bipartisan issue. This is about safeguarding children and the most vulnerable adults. I am on the executive committee for Protect Kids of California, the bipartisan group behind the ballot initiative that will safeguard families, females, and children and return California to reality. Our supporters include left-wing groups such as Women's Declaration International, Women's Liberation Front, and ICONS, and many more. The Protect Kids initiative will do three things. It will prevent schools from hiding from parents critical mental health information about their children, deceiving their parents when their children are experiencing gender confusion. It will bar schools from socially transitioning children without parental consent. No parent sends their child to school to have school counselors and teachers interfere with the medical care of their child. The initiative will also return sports, changing rooms, and bathrooms at public schools to be sex-separated spaces that they have been for decades, instead of being based on self-ID gender identity. Females are entitled to privacy and dignity. Male bodies do not belong in female spaces or sports, period. The initiative will also prohibit minors from obtaining puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and irreversible surgeries to alter their perfectly healthy bodies, perfectly healthy, to masquerade as the opposite sex. No person can change sex. This initiative will prevent children from becoming lifelong medical patients and cash cows for gender clinics and hospitals. It will prevent the sterilization, harm to their sexual function, and safeguard them from a myriad of serious physical ailments from synthetic hormones. The downloadable petition can be found at protectkidsca.com. So at the end of November, Attorney Rob Bonta provided the title and summary for the Protect Kids of California initiative. Under the election code, he was required to provide, and I quote, "a true and impartial statement of the purpose of the measure in such language that the ballot title and summary shall neither be an argument or likely to create prejudice for or against the proposed measure." Mr. Bonta's title and summary is prejudicial, partial, and inaccurate. He changed the title from Protect Kids of California Act of 2024 to the deceptive title Restricts Rights of Transgender Youth. This change is designed to influence and interfere with the democratic process to push the agenda to harm children, women, and girls. He also used language to confuse the voter by using the term female for a trans-identified male. We all know what a female is, and it is not a male. During Mr. Bonta's time in office, he has evidenced his unfaltering support for the removal of young people's healthy body parts and his steadfast disregard for every systematic review of the evidence. Reviews that demonstrate unquestionably the lack of evidence that arresting a child's natural puberty or changing their secondary sexual traits prevents suicide, has any lasting positive effect on their mental health, or will result in a better quality of life. Most, if not all, of these kids that are being transitioned would grow up just to be gay. Many are autistic, and all of them are suffering from mental health issues. Mr. Bonta has also made it very apparent his support for government interference in parental rights. Bonta, as does Governor Newsom, believes that schools should lie to parents when their child is suffering from gender confusion. They both characterize all parents as abusers, and they promote the dangerous and unscientific idea that a child can be born wrong. Mr. Bonta wants teachers and schools to socially transition children behind their parents' backs. He wants the schools to lie to parents. Parents don't clock out at 3 o'clock or disappear on the weekends or take off for the summer. AG Bonta has joined a number of amicus briefs in cases across the nation in which male bodies are participating as girls in sports, using their safe private spaces, despite the fact that their immutably sexed bodies are that of a male. California voters have a right to accurate titles and summaries for ballot measures, not biased, inaccurate language designed to confuse and misinform the public. Therefore, Protect Kids of California is filing a suit against Rob Bonta on the basis that the title and summary are false, misleading, and designed to prejudice the measure. So as the co-lead of our duty, I'm announcing 3 pieces of legislation that we're going to be pushing in 2024. The first law that we will be proposing to every lawmaker in Sacramento is a law named after Yaeli Martinez, the child who was taken from her loving mother because she refused to call her daughter a male. This law will ensure that parents like me and thousands in our parent groups who want to protect our children from body-destroying gender interventions do not lose custody of our children. This law will unambiguously state that it is not child abuse to safeguard your child from unproven experimental medical interventions. It is not neglect for a parent or guardian to refuse to socially or medically transition their child. Will one lawmaker, Republican or Democrat, stand up for children and parents? Will all 120 be complicit as California parents lose custody of their kids because they refuse to affirm their child's self-loathing, because they won't affirm their child's desire to escape from his or her natural body? Will Assemblymember Bill Asaley remain the only legislator with the courage to propose law that protects against gender ideology? Parents on both sides of the aisle will cast our votes in November accordingly. Silence is acquiescence to the fringe groups coming for our children. Second, our duty will propose two bills that will protect the most marginalized. You know, those persons whose voices are silenced, those persons whose existence is denied. Sacramento Bee. I am speaking about the ever-expanding community called detransitioners, the victims of the so-called gender affirmative care. One of the bills will ensure that the detransitioners get the medical health treatment that they need. Right now, insurers are required to cover all of the transitional medical interventions, but they can deny all of the needs of the detransitioners. Once they transition a human and harm their bodies irreversibly, they kick them to the side. Isn't it inclusive to include detransitioners in our insurance? Isn't it equitable? Shouldn't we be protecting the most marginalized? I think we should. Let's see if the lawmakers do. The second proposed bill will extend the statute of limitations for medical malpractice suits up to 10 years. For those victims who lost body parts or rendered sterile or infertile because of gender interventions. Detransitioners deserve to hold the medical providers accountable for their losses. If there are so few detransitioners, 1%, why won't the lawmakers require insurance to cover them? Might they actually know that there are tens of thousands of detransitioners and counting? California voters of all backgrounds are joining forces to protect children, girls, and women. Join us at protectkidsca.com to stop the fringe groups from harming our children and erasing women in the state of California. Please go to protectkidsca.com and download the petition and sign it today. I would now like to invite up Richard, I'm going to get this right, Anumene, a heterosexual man who is a detransitioner. He detransitioned after Kaiser Permanente removed his genitals, despite knowing his protracted and painful mental health history. So Richard, will you please come up here?
How's everyone doing today? That's good to hear. Oh, can you hear me? How's everyone doing today? Excellent. I'm gonna start. So, okay. My name is Richard Anumene. I am a detransitioner. My Nigerian father was extremely strict. Keep it a little bit closer. Okay. All right. My name is Richard Anumene. I am a detransitioner. My Nigerian father was extremely strict and isolated our family. I did not fit in with my American-raised schoolmates. I was vulnerable and easy mark for gender ideology. Searching for answers, I stumbled across transgenderism. At 19, I began to identify as a trans woman, finding community and friendship. I attended an in-person transgender meetup group in Sacramento, California, where I was informed about a gender clinic called the Gender Health Center. This center readily provided me with synthetic estrogen with no regard for my mental state or well-being. They encouraged me to legally change my name and had a space for trans-identified adults to hang out with minors from ages 13 and above together. Much older trans-identified males befriended me in that space, or shall I say, preyed upon me. They welcomed me into their social group and heaped the much desired attention on me. For a time, I felt loved and special, even euphoric. I was basically love bombed into medically transitioning. I had my first romantic relationship with a woman. It was short-lived. Then my life took a turn. I ended up homeless. With encouragement from my father, I returned to living as a man. But because of my long history of trauma at the hands of my parents and older brother, that included emotional, physical, and sexual abuse as a child, I left home again and severed my relationship with my father. I have been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, suicide ideation, schizophrenia, bipolar mania or bipolar disorder, and PTSD. I underwent various treatments, including a myriad of medications, both inpatient and outpatient hospitalizations, and even visited a witch doctor in Nigeria. Unable to resolve my acute pain, I ended up homeless and again joined the transgender community. This time under the guidance and encouragement of Kaiser Permanente healthcare professionals. I had facial feminization surgery in November of 2020. I had vaginoplasty about 5 months later in March of 2021. I was chronically depressed and suicidal, which worsened months after I had the so-called life-saving surgeries. None of my medical or mental health issues were properly addressed. And instead of resolving my mental health issues, medical transition only worsened them. Within months of the irreversible vaginoplasty, deep regret set in and I detransitioned. I was not a transgender woman, but that I was a severely abused heterosexual man. The fact that the medical community ignored my mental health issues encouraged me, a man with known trauma, to remove my genitals resulted in unprecedented mental breakdowns and substance use. I quit cross-sex hormones and dilating my artificial vaginal or canal or artificial vagina cold turkey. No medical provider can provide me guidance on what to do now that I no longer can produce natural testosterone. I am a perpetual medical patient as well as an experiment for the rest of my life. My ongoing medical complications include bleeding, urinary incontinence, and urinary tract infections. My mental and emotional well-being has worsened. The consequences of these surgeries are permanent. I cannot get back the years of time that I've lost going on a fool's errand, believing I could be a woman, and that doing so would resolve all of my childhood trauma and mental health issues. I was the sacred cow, the epitome of victimhood, the black trans woman, used by the transgender movement and then tossed away. All of my problems were supposed to be solved when I was affirmed. Instead, they have been largely compounded. I am here today because Californians need to stand up against this monstrous transgender movement. Every Californian needs to understand that no one can ever change sex. Detransitioners exist and our numbers are growing. Stop ignoring us. The Protect Kids California ballot initiative must be successful and lawmakers need to start listening. No child is born in wrong, and experimentation on humans is an abomination. Thank you.
I'd like to now ask Chloe Cole to come up. Chloe Cole is from California. She transitioned at the age of, I believe, 13 and detransitioned at the age of 17. Come on up, Chloe.
Hello, my name is Chloe Cole, and I'm a 19-year-old detransitioner from the Central Valley of California. And I was put through this cross-sex hormone mimicry experimentation when I was 13 years old. My life and my family were completely torn to shreds by the gender industry. My normal struggles as a young woman going through a normal female puberty were weaponized by radical activists, medical professionals that were supposedly trained to do no harm. My parents were persistently coerced by our doctors into signing off on puberty suppression and testosterone therapy for me when I was only 13. The puberty blockers stopped the production of sex hormones and normal development that my body was going through, and it left me instead feeling empty and physically uncomfortable with sensations like tingling and itching in my limbs. I also have pelvic and joint pain caused by a combination of both the puberty blockers and the hormones, and it started with the suppression of my puberty. The blockers put me into a sort of menopause that gave me hot flashes that made it hard for me to focus in school. Puberty blockers do not allow time to decide on whether or not to continue onto the more damaging cross-sex hormone procedures. They force you down a path of destruction while frying your body and brain. The testosterone also caused immense harm to my body. For a very long time, I had a very deep voice, deeper than most of my male peers and even some of the adult males around me. And even though it's recovered in the few years that I've been off testosterone, it's never going to be where it was. And I've lost a major bit of my singing ability. I can't sing like I used to. The masculinizing changes to my bone structure are permanent as well. I permanently have enlarged shoulders, stronger jaw, larger nose than I used to, and I even have a bit of an Adam's apple. It doesn't just shrink. It's there for life. And it also caused me to experience vaginal and uterine atrophy, which was a lot worse than I was told it would be by my endocrinologist. I ended up experiencing frequent urinary tract infections and other issues like blood and even bits of tissue appearing in my urine. And I had uterine cramps that were worse than any period I have ever had. The steep increase in my sex drive, combined with the untreated psychiatric issues that I had, turned into hypersexuality, which caused me to fall into the hands of groomers, both outside and within the LGBT community. I completely changed as a person in the worst ways. Eventually, a surgeon performed a double mastectomy when I was 15 years old. My breasts are gone forever. They are not growing back, and I still have complications with the skin grafts to this day. I have open wounds on my chest that no doctor has helped me with since. My life was turned into a nightmare because of these procedures. I've been to so many doctors who have looked at me and shrugged, telling me that they have no idea how to help me without continuing the experimentation. I feel like a Frankenstein's monster. My body is never going to be the same because I was a victim of the biggest medical scandal of the century. Children and adolescents like me need your signature. They need you to get this issue on the ballot. This state is far too beautiful to be stained with the blood of innocent children. In fact, this country is much too beautiful for that. And where California goes, the rest of the United States of America, and eventually the entire world goes. This is why we, as Californians, need to set the standard for how to treat children with gender dysphoria. Thank you for signing at protectkidsca.com.
Thank you so much, Chloe. Next up, we have a very special guest coming all the way from Wisconsin. She came to have New Year's Eve with Chloe. This is Laura Becker, and she is also a detransitioner who was told that all of her mental health issues would magically disappear if she would only change her body to mimic that of a male's.
Yeah, I still have mental health issues. It's my opener. So yeah, my name is Laura Becker. I have come all the way here from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And unfortunately, I've had to do a lot of traveling this past year, and I certainly will do a lot this year because, as Chloe said, California sets the precedent for legislative considerations for the rest of the country. The rest of the world looks to California, and what the California legislature has the power to do, we can't trust them with that power. No. So I'll tell you a bit about my story. I'm not from California, I'm from Wisconsin, and so first of all, it can happen anywhere. It happens everywhere, even in the flyover state of Wisconsin, right? A purple state. It's not just a specific sort of value. It's being pushed throughout a systemic angle to infiltrate schools, human resources, and most importantly, medicine. I'm a victim of the medical malpractice. As Chloe said, the largest medical scandal of our time. And I could have been stopped if I had had proper safeguarding. That's what I advocate for safeguarding. I'm an independent person. I believe in classical liberal values, and I believe in freedom. A lot of opponents claim that this is about censoring people's ability to do what they want with their bodies, and that it's none of our business. I definitely think it's our business, what we do as a nation, to provide proper health care based in actual science, based in data and evidence-based care. I've been in the medical system since I was 11 years old. I was diagnosed on the autism spectrum at age 11. I was diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome at 11. And at 12, I was diagnosed with major depression and anxiety. I had consistent, chronic, familial abuse from a parent. And unbeknownst to me, I had developed symptoms of complex post-traumatic stress disorder by the time I was 12 years old. I was in and out of the medical system, therapists, pediatricians' offices. I even went inpatient for the first time for suicide ideation at 15. I subsequently went in 3 more times from 15 until the age of 22 for suicide ideation. I was in the outpatient program. I was in day treatment. I was consistently seeking help for my mental health issues from the age of 11 years old. Our opponents will say that we just transition on a whim. We just make stupid, foolish choices and decide to get surgery, and it's our problem that it just didn't work out for us. Tell that to an 11-year-old child, to a 15-year-old child, to an 18-year-old who has been experiencing parental abuse from a young age, who's autistic, who's suicidal. Oh, you just should have known better. Now you're just trying to ruin it for everyone else, all the real trans people. How can you distinguish between a real trans person and someone who's just having gender issues at that time? Detransitioners are proof that it's possible to manage gender dysphoric symptoms without needing to rely on heavy-duty medicalization, cosmetic surgery to treat our problems. And I'm not saying it to sound holier than thou. I have the utmost sympathy for people who are doing any kind of coping mechanism. But that is what transition is. It is a coping mechanism to deal with all myriad of social, familial, attachment, substance issues, anything you can think of. Richard had schizophrenia. Okay? So why are we treating mental health issues with cosmetic surgery? And then if someone says, hey, that didn't work, well, fuck you, right? And I'm here to say that's not appropriate. It's more than not appropriate, it's evil. And so my goal here, coming all the way from Wisconsin, is to show that it doesn't just happen in California. It's happening all over this country. And we need to let California residents know that it's possible to be more aware than they currently are, right? We're not all a bunch of evil, individuals. I don't have my breasts anymore, all right? What I'm wearing now is a padded bra. I have nothing there. I had my breasts surgically removed when I was 20 years old. I was on testosterone when I was 19 years old. And I will never be able to get back those years that I spent in a delusional state, having magical thinking that I could live as the opposite sex, and then maybe I would feel lovable as a human being. I just felt more unlovable after I had surgery and hormones. I felt like a degenerate. I felt alienated. I felt disgusted and mutilated. And then I had to do the work of accepting what I had done to myself, even though it was just an attempt to survive abuse from my own father. And now I speak out about that, and suddenly there's no sympathy for me or my fellow detransition peers from the loving trans community, from the left who claims to care about mental health, who claims to care about healthy, loving relationships and boundaries. I have a boundary for you guys. How about some safeguarding in medicine that doesn't allow children to be sterilized because they're confused about going through adolescence? How about the boundary of telling a college-aged kid whose brain is not fully formed that maybe someday they'll want to have kids? Maybe they should wait a little while to have some life experience before they get their genitals surgically altered. So, California residents, please listen to detransitioners' stories, make your own informed decision. I'm not here to tell anyone what to think or what to do. All I ask is that you use your curiosity and creativity and and compassionate energy to hear an outside perspective and consider that maybe the safest option is to have some boundaries around who is healthy enough to be able to truly make an informed decision as an adult, as a fully formed adult who has had experience. And to the rest of the country, especially Wisconsin, I have the same message. We need to be more aware of what's actually going on, and as easy it is to just listen to the talking points, the very, pleasant sounding talking points that we need to provide gender affirming care to these individuals. Well, what is care? Can we break it down? Because if we break it down, care seems a lot like neglect to me. That's what I experienced. Medical neglect, medical malpractice. And so please get these signatures for this measure, and the other states, it's happening there too. So be aware in your communities and don't be afraid to ask questions. Most importantly, my message is to always speak the truth. Speaking the truth should not cause harm. If someone says that they're triggered by speaking the truth, that is a necessary act of compassion, because only through the truth will you be liberated. And you must be able to make that decision yourself, having all the truthful information possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. You have such great advice. Now I would like to invite up the Freedom Angels. I don't know, are you guys coming up together?
Hey! Good morning. My name is Denise. I'm one of the co-founders of Freedom Angels. I'm also running for Assembly District 13. Californians have not been represented for years. That's why this ballot is so important for people to sign, to show California leadership that they have not represented us and their extreme policies and laws are no longer going to be acceptable. So we're here to let them know we are engaged, we are participating, and we're not going to let them get away with this type of medical malpractice or extremism that they have been practicing for years. We want balance, we want course correction, and we want our seat at the table, and we're going to take it. So I'm really excited that you're here, and I'm going to pass it on to my partner, Tara.
Hi, I'm Tara Thornton, also co-founder of Freedom Angels, and yes, the leadership and governing bodies are failing us. The people, the real California, are not being represented by the extremists in both elected and appointed leadership. But California is not a lost cause. That can be seen in the victories. The defeat of SB 866, the defeat of the HPV mandate in AB 659, the passing of SB 14 that made child sex trafficking a violent felony. How was it not before? And it's even more apparent when you go into the communities and you see that every district, every demographic is aligned together. That when you just talk to the people, you see that we have the same issues that we care about. That it's not partisan, our children, our families, our ability to put food on the table, to pay the bills, to pay the power bill, to get gas, to have education, to have a safe community, to have thriving businesses. We are aligned on this. And when you come to the Capitol and you show up like this, you are showing the world the greatest advocacy power there is. There are giant lobbies that cover the big pharma and big tech industries, the war machine, all industries, ones that are beneficial, ones that exploit and divide. But there is nothing analogous fighting for our children. There's nothing analogous fighting for our families, but there's something better and stronger. There's each of us. And together, locked arms, we break the false partisan divide. And just you showing up here is not only an act of hope, but it is the action that creates the world that we want for our children and all of humanity. That's all children, that's all humanity. Thank you for coming also for the Grassroots Lobby Day today, because the reason these extremist bills pass is only because people don't know about them. And then the people that do know about them are talking on social media, and they need to just get engaged IRL. Everyone should be moving to X and push the boundaries of free speech, because censorship and the propaganda machine causes the fake divide. Thank you for coming. Denise, we're going to talk really quickly about, as we end the press conference, we want you to stay for a minute, and we'll talk about the grassroots lobbying. This is in our hands. The ballot initiative, this is how we take back our state from the extremists. We should build an army that moves at all times, every year, using the ballot initiative process, using every tool at our disposal to create the balance and show the rest of the world that we are not extremists here in California, that it's a minority progressive democratic leadership, and they don't represent the people. They have all the cover that they need if they go out and talk to the community. So as you come today, know that we can turn this around. If we get this on the ballot, we will end Newsom's sanctified sanctuary state for child sterilization. Elon Musk called it utter madness, and he was right. And if you get that to a vote, California, you will show the world. We're also going to go after SB 132. That is a bill that has women trapped in prisons right now, with men who identify as women being able to move over there. The intent was for a small sliver of people that identify that way. It is being gamed and used as a secondary protective custody, as well as by predators. This legislature created that law that have put women sitting in there waiting for you to help them right now. They are trapped behind locked bars, and they are terrorized. They have a process here that you can fix bad laws. We can do it right now this session. And we'll work to pass the bills to protect the detransitioners as well, prevent any form of mandates. And I hope when people see us here, I hope when they come and see you show up, that they know that you're here not on any one issue. You're here for the children and to create the world you want, and that nothing will ever buy you or stop you. And as Erin's going to conclude the press conference, we'd like one moment to give you a heads up for the grassroots training, because you are the front line. When you are here, if you are not here, nobody else is. And that's right, and you're here, and you can change the world. So easy. 5, 10 people in a district can change everything. We'll coordinate district to capital networks, and we'll turn this state around.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I just want to end that the people whose offices are here and over there on O Street are afraid of us, and they should be, because we are joining forces. Democrats, Republicans, independents, religious, irreligious, gay, straight, all of us, black, white, Asian, Indian, we're done with the attacks on our children. We're finished, and we are holding hands. And gosh darn it, press, pay attention. Walk out there and talk to people. Ask them what party they are. 80% of them will say that they're registered Democrats. This is not a partisan issue. Go to protectkidsca.com, download the petition, gather signatures. I live in a very Democrat county. I am gathering signatures with no problem. Okay, we can do this. Donate. We need your money too. We need donations. But we can do this. So let's go. Let's go see our lawmakers and tell them what we think, shall we?
All right. So